Hey all, so this is the last video related to D3.1, and this is HL content as well. We're looking at gametogenesis here, and what we're trying to do is describe how sperm and eggs are made by the testes and ovaries. And so we're going to be looking at page 682 to 685. So in sexual development, we have gonadotropin releasing hormone, which is a peptide hormone that's released from the hypothalamus, and it's released from about 10 weeks to about 10 weeks as a fetus of age, all the way up to about 4 months after the birth. And then that's going to be reinitiated at puberty. And so the hormones are released in pulses each hour. This hormone is released in pulses each hour, and that's going to stimulate LH and FSH from the pituitary gland, and that's going to trigger puberty. And they're called gonadotropins because they trigger changes in the gonads. And those are your reproductive organs. So FSH is going to grow the testes for males, and LH is going to stimulate the Leydig cells, which will make testosterone. And testosterone, the presence of testosterone is going to trigger secondary sexual characteristics like a deepening voice or pubic hair or a growing penis. And so with females, FSH and LH are going to trigger follicle development and then ovulation. And then the corpus luteum the follicle wall will produce estrogen and the corpus luteum will produce progesterone. And estrogen and progesterone's presence will trigger the secondary sexual characteristics, such as widening hips or pubic hair, as well as breast tissue. And so estrogen will cause the enlargement of the breasts, and then progesterone will cause the development of mammary glands in the breast tissue. And so when we're looking at eggs and sperm, we need to know what kind of differences they have. And so eggs are about 10,000 times bigger than sperm. They're released during ovulation, which is in the middle of the menstrual cycle. There's one usually released per month, but that can sometimes differ based on genetics. So some women might occasionally ovulate 2 eggs in a month, and that would be what results in fraternal twins. And so that means 2 eggs have been ovulated, 2 sperm fertilize those 2 eggs, and then you have siblings growing in the uterus together. But they're genetically like siblings, not identical. The egg has a lot of cytoplasm in it, and women experience menopause. So they will ovulate until they hit about 50, and then they will stop ovulating. Whereas with sperm, millions of them are made per day. They're really, really tiny. And 4 are made per round of meiosis, whereas 1 is made per round of meiosis for an egg. Sperm are released during ejaculation, whenever that might happen. They have lots of mitochondria in here for helping with swimming. The female also has lots of mitochondria and tons of organelles in here, and it's big so that it can grow for a few days through mitosis without needing extra food. So it's using its food reserves in here. The mitochondria that are in the female egg are going to be passed on to the offspring, but the mitochondria that are in the sperm will not. So that allows geneticists to trace back the matrilineal, the mum's line, through the mitochondrial DNA. And with sperm, they are produced until the time of death of the male, and as opposed to women who will stop ovulating at some point in their life. So eggs are going to move slowly in the fallopian tubes. They're pushed by little hairs in the fallopian tubes called cilia, and they have food reserves, so a large amount of cytoplasm, so that they can undergo mitosis for a few days. They have mitochondria that will be passed on to the offspring, and there are centrioles present that will allow them to undergo mitosis. They have a zona pellucida that's going to prevent extra sperm from entering, and that zona pellucida is going to be triggered by the cortical granules, which contain enzymes to harden. So the zona pellucida will harden, preventing polyspermy. Sperms have long tails for swimming, and that's a competitive process. So only one's getting in there. So whichever sperm makes it is going to share its DNA. The mid piece is filled with mitochondria to make energy for swimming, and it has a streamlined head with digestive enzymes in the acrosome and tightly packed chromosomes and a small cytoplasm in the head here. And that's the only thing that gets in. Receptors are going to bind with the zona pellucida. Binding proteins are going to allow the sperm to merge with a female nuclear membrane. So how are sperm made? This is a process called spermatogenesis, and Leydig cells occupy the space between seminiferous tubules, and they will produce testosterone. A testy is just filled with thousands of seminiferous tubules, and the process of making sperm is occurring inside the seminiferous tubules. And so in the seminiferous tubule, there are going to be these spermatogonia cells, which are close to the wall of the seminiferous tubule. These are going to go through mitosis. So they go through mitosis, and then they become primary spermatocytes. So primary spermatocytes are the cells that will then become sperm cells. And these primary spermatocytes are going to go through their first mitotic division to become secondary spermatocytes, and then the second round of mitosis to become spermatids. And then the sperms, you can see here, the spermatids don't have tails. Mature sperm have tails and acrosome heads. So they need a maturing process. And so nurse cells or Sertoli cells are going to help spermatids to differentiate and grow their heads properly and their tails. And so those nurse cells are in the outer wall here of the seminiferous tubules. And as we said here, these spermatogonium cells are germinal, meaning they're going through mitosis, not meiosis. And then once the sperms have been made, they go to the epididymis for storage and then will be ejaculated through the sperm duct. So what's going on in oogenesis, the production of eggs? So the primary oocyte, which has not been released from meiosis one here, this process. So the primary follicle forms during fetal development via mitosis, and then it goes through meiosis when the fetus is 4 to 5 months old, but it halts in prophase 1 of meiosis, and it's just chilling there. And then the follicular layer forms around them at about 7 months. So most fetuses are born, female fetuses, with about 400,000 follicles. Not all of these are going to become viable eggs. So once a female reaches puberty, a small batch of follicles are stimulated by FSH each month. So approximately 5 to 8 of them. And one will go on to become a secondary oocyte, which is when meiosis 1 has been completed. So this here, mature follicle, meiosis 1 is over. The secondary oocyte at first polar body are now formed. First polar bodies and second polar bodies are where meiosis has happened, but part of the tissue and genetic material has just been removed, and it's just off to the side. It's not used anymore. If the egg then becomes fertilized, it will go through meiosis 2. So it will finish the meiosis process. But when it's ovulated, it is a secondary oocyte, and it has gone through meiosis 1. So to summarize, GnRH, which is gonadotropin releasing hormone, triggers FSH and LH to stimulate ovulation and sperm production during puberty. Structure of the eggs and sperm differ. Spermatogenesis is happening in the seminiferous tubules through meiosis and then differentiation. Differentiation is helped by nurse cells. And then oogenesis starts in utero. The primary oocyte is halted in prophase 1. And once it is ovulated, it's halted in metaphase 2 until fertilization happens, and then it'll go through meiosis 2. So that's it for all of this. Thank you for watching.